your lap.
Good morning. My name is Mike Boudreau. I'm the Sheriff of Tulare County. First and foremost this morning, for all of our law enforcement, we would like to send sympathies, prayers, and condolences to the Selma police officer who lost his life in the line of duty. To that agency as well as to the family, our heartfelt condolences. We also send our sympathy and prayers to all those in California in the recent weeks who have lost their lives due to gun violence. We must remember that these are criminals with guns, not innocent people with guns, not law-abiding citizens with guns. These are criminals with guns. I believe as a direct result, guns crossing over an unsecure border. I do want to thank our community. I want to thank the community in Tulare County, the Central Valley, in California. I also want to thank those all across the United States who have reached out. They've sent text messages, emails, cards. They've sent money. All over the United States this has happened. I was recently at a local store here in town where literally I was stopped over and over again because this case has really impacted people. The deaths in this case really is heartbreaking. I do want to recognize the deputies in this case who actually responded, were the first responders on the scene of this tragedy that we're referring to as a 6-person massacre. I'm thankful for the men and women in law enforcement who see the ugliness that society often offers and still is the professionals that they need to be. But we can't take away from the fact that they are also human beings with children and families, and it is also heartbreaking to us all. Today, I would like to announce Operation Nightmare. Operation Nightmare began this morning. Around 0400 hours in the early morning hours, we executed 3 search warrants beginning at 6 a.m. One of the search warrants was in the 1000th block of Noyce Street in the city of Visalia. Another in the 6600 block of Avenue 308 in Goshen. And the third 7100 block of Avenue 308 in Goshen. This was a multi-agency collaboration and operation. The Visalia location was searched by the Tulare County Sheriff's Office investigators and SWAT team. The Goshen locations were led by ATF with their special response team, as well as HSI and their special response team. At the same time, we've been working with the California Department of Corrections. Prison cells associated with the Nuestra Familia gang were searched in North Kern Prison, Pelican Bay, Corcoran, High Desert, and Folsom prisons. Approximately 8 cells and 16 inmates were searched. At the same time, the search warrants were being conducted that I mentioned above. This morning, I have to say, as the sheriff, as this Operation Nightmare began, I actually had to hold my breath and say a little prayer for the safety of all officers that were engaged in this operation this morning. I will tell you that we have identified suspects. The suspects we put 24-hour, 7-day-a-week surveillance on, starting on January 23rd. We had information in forensics that were leading us to the identification of these suspects, and we conducted actual physical surveillance since the 23rd. Today, I would like to announce the arrest of 35-year-old Angel Uriarte of Goshen and 25-year-old Noah Beard of Visalia. Beard was taken into custody without incident. Uriarte, on the other hand, engaged in a gun battle with ATF agents. He was struck and rushed to a nearby hospital and is currently undergoing surgery. He is in stable condition and expected to survive. Let me give you an overview of what happened. Again, as many of you know the story, on January 16th, about 4 a.m., deputies were called to the 6800 block of Harvest in Goshen with multiple shots fired. The caller told dispatch she believed there was multiple shots being heard into the area. This time I'd like to play some of that operation.
Yeah, what may I help you? Hello, ma'am, do you have any emergency? What's going on? Okay, do you live in an apartment or is this a home? Okay, what's going on?
They shot my boyfriend. You keep shooting up. I don't know if they're still here on the stairs, so they're still shooting outside. Please, hurry, please. I don't know where they are now. Oh, they're still shooting.
They're still shooting?
Yes, hurry, please. They're coming back. They're coming back. Oh, they're coming back in.
Who's coming back in?
The guy. Please hurry, come on. You hear? Someone else is coming up. No, they're shooting in now.
What do you hear now?
Nothing. Everyone else are out there. I'm just scared. I hear sirens coming. My boyfriend, he's on the floor. Shot in the stomach.
Is he breathing?
Is he breathing? Yeah, he's still breathing. He's still breathing. Hold on, baby. Hold on, please.
Yeah, how about the way the pit has an officer right around the corner?
You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. They're here. Okay. They're here. Right here. Come in here. Here. Watch me. Okay, they're here with me, okay?
You're there? Okay, you did a great job, ma'am. Good one.
Upon receiving this call and upon putting the information out about the massacre of these 6 people, we immediately began getting phone calls from allied agencies. I'd like to recognize the AUSA's office who called and provided federal counterparts contact information, who immediately reached out within hours, and we began this investigation not only with the Tulare County Sheriff's Office and the veteran men and women of our agency, but as well working with our federal counterparts. The FBI came in and helped enhance video. Deputies arrived approximately 7 minutes later. Here's what we believe. We believe that Eladio Perez was killed first. He was shot in the torso and in the leg. Marcos Perez, we believe, was shot second. He was shot in the head. Third was Jennifer Anaya. She was asleep and shot in the head as well. We believe that she was shot in her sleep. Third was Jennifer Anaya. Fourth was Rosa Perez. She was found kneeling and was shot in the head. We believe that she was getting out of her bed to check on what was happening. As the gunman came in, she was on her knees and shot in the head. Lastly, as you see, and all of it is disturbing, but most emotionally is Alyssa Perez. As you see, and we suspected from the evidence at the scene, that she was running with her small 10-month-old baby. She ran to the gate, she ran to the fence, and as you saw, her taking her child, laid it on the other side of the fence. She jumped over the fence. As you can see, she's petite, young lady, young mother. Jumped over the fence in an effort to save her life and her baby's life. Alyssa and Nicholas were both found dead on the street. Both shot in the back of the head. In total that day, 6 lives were taken. During the investigation, as I had indicated, that this was clearly not a random act of violence. This family was targeted by cold-blooded killers. Autopsy reports in our second press conference, as you remember, I promised to come out with those. All victims died from gunshot wounds. Evidence leading to our arrests. Our forensics team was able to collect DNA left behind at the scene. We are still on scene of that first incident. We have not released that, as we have been collecting forensic evidence from that location since the day of occurrence. We literally have thousands of items of evidence that we have collected so far. Special congratulations and thanks to ATF, our Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They have worked relentlessly with us, and I've never seen anything like this before. They would take the evidence, the DNA samples, or other forensic evidence, and they would rush it overnight to their laboratory in Maryland. And we would get those returns very, very quickly. Not often seen. I reached out to our district attorney, Tim Ward, who is with us here today. And Tim Ward immediately assigned a district attorney full-time. Even with the overload of cases that he has within the district attorney's office, he assigned someone full-time to begin going through and scouring through the evidence that we were constantly barraging his office with. Here's what we did do. Once we determined who the suspects were, we had them under constant 24-hour day surveillance. This was demanding with resources. But let me reinforce, we knew every move they were making. The public was not at risk. We had them under our wing exactly where we wanted them. We didn't have enough evidence as yet to make the arrest, and we wanted our district attorney to feel confident and comfortable that with the filing, that no mistakes were made. But once we did have the DNA information, we jumped. Operation Nightmare. Here's what we do believe. In the beginning, I had mentioned it was a cartel-like shooting. And as all of you can imagine, this is exactly what it appears to be. The investigation began to tighten from all across the state of California, all the way down into the Central Valley, and we quickly learned that it was going to be right here at home. Rivalry games between the Norteños and the Sureños, which we have all heard of many, many times. The two members of the Perez family, the victim's family, were well-known, validated Sureño gang members in the town of Goshen, which is predominantly held by the Norteño gang. The two suspects arrested today are validated Norteños. The suspects and the victims have a long history of gang violence, heavily active in guns, gang violence, gun violence, and narcotics dealings. However, having said that, the motive is not exactly clear at this point. Let's talk about the number of man-hours that went into this case. We have more than 10,000 hours of approximately 87 personnel from the Sheriff's Office who have been working relentlessly nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Agencies involved. Important for us to list them all. ATF, the AUSA out of Fresno, the California Highway Patrol, who also provided helicopter resources over the top of our search warrants today, the FBI, HSI, DEA, Vice City Police Department, our chief, our good chief Jason Salazar is here today with us, U.S. Marshal's Office, the Wood Lake Police Department, the Porterville Police Department, Fresno County Sheriff's Office, Fresno Police Department, Department of Justice, CDCR, which is California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation, a Kings County Sheriff's Office, HIDA TNT, which is our Narcotics Task Force, the Tulare County District Attorney's Office, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. The work that went into this behind the scenes, it's hard for everyone to understand. But I actually was on the phone with Tim Ward into the midnight hours last night. He was up at his office reviewing the case for filing today. I believe that was at 11 or 11:15 that I had called and spoke with him, or a text message. I've also been on the phone with Shannon Grove, our state senator. We'll touch a little bit about that when I touch on potential legislation efforts into the future. At this time, I would like to hear from Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm, ATF, Josh Jackson. Josh.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hey, good morning. My name is Joshua Jackson. I'm the acting special agent in charge for the ATF San Francisco Field Division. If you guys recall, when we first met, discussions and comments to the public regarding why ATF was involved in this case was about ATF's mission, which is very simple, is to prevent, reduce, and solve violent crime. And specific to this, I emphasized that all resources are going to be brought to bear from ATF to help solve this crime. Some of those resources were our special agents, our task force officers, our intelligence research specialists, our explosive detection canines, our technical surveillance specialists, our experts at the ATF National Crime Lab, and also our ATF Special Response Team. All those resources are brought to bear to work hand in hand with the collective team that you guys see behind me. As the sheriff spoke this morning during warrant service, ATF personnel were at all locations. At one of the locations, at our ATF SRT location, they're serving a search warrant and arrest warrant. During service of that warrant, URT shot at the SRT response team, and at that point, an agent-involved shooting occurred, and URT was shot. Our ATF SRT EMTs immediately jumped into action, rendered aid, and he was stabilized and transported to a local hospital where, my understanding, he's in stable condition. As far as the facts of this case is very dark, comes from a very dark place, and ATF remains committed to work with federal, state, and local partners to go find these violent offenders in the darkest of places. We'll remain ready and able to meet these people where we find them and bring them into light so that they can stand for accountability in a court of law. As we move forward in this investigation, as it pivots more towards a criminal adjudication phase, we will support the investigation for the DA's office, for the Sheriff's Office as far as the homicide investigations, and also support FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office as we will be looking for charging assault against a federal agent related to the shooting this morning. Thank you for your time.
So this is Kim Sanchez is our AUSA in regards to the federal charges that potentially filed against the shooter this morning.
Thank you. I'm Kim Sanchez. I'm the Chief of the Narcotics and Violent Crime Unit in Fresno. And I'm here on behalf of the U.S. Attorney Phil Talbert, who regrets not being able to be here today. Really just to say we are so grateful to be a part of this gold standard of a team. This is not a signature across the nation all the time where all of these agencies come together with this singular focus and singular mission to reduce violent crime and to bring justice. That has always been the signature here, and we are glad to be a part of it. We really have played a supporting role, supporting our federal agencies and supporting our local and state partners throughout this investigation in an effort to do what we can to accomplish that mission of reducing violent crime. Thank you.
And at this time, I'll turn it over to Tulare County District Attorney Tim Ward.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning. I can tell you that this morning, the Office of the District Attorney filed a criminal complaint in Visalia Superior Court charging both defendants with 6 counts of murder along with a number of other charges. Please know that my office will have copies of the complaint, which is about 25 pages in length, available to you, so don't feel that in any way you have to write everything down. I can tell you that the complaint as filed was done so in an effort to help law enforcement get to the point of the operation kicking off this morning. Any conduct and any evidence that was obtained as a result of that operation going forward, we will at the appropriate time review that, and in conjunction with our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office, we will decide what is the appropriate avenue. But I would expect that an amended complaint could be filed in this case. To hopefully provide some clarity, I can tell you that as to defendant Noah Beard, 4 of the 6 murder counts also have a special allegation that he personally used a firearm in the commission of the murder, and defendant Uriarte has the same special allegation of use of a firearm on 2 of the 6 counts of murder. Both defendants have a special circumstance allegation charging multiple murders under Penal Code Section 190.2. In essence, that alleges that each was individually responsible for 2 or more murders in this heinous crime. Both defendants also have a special allegation attached, that I want to get the language of this exactly correctly, that the murders were committed while the defendants were participating in a criminal street gang, and it was carried out to further the activities of a criminal street gang. Both defendants have charges alleging that at the time of the murders, each were prohibited from owning a firearm due to prior criminal cases. Both defendants are presumed not guilty until my office meets the burden of proof. However, we look forward to cooperation, continuing with our law enforcement partners, and jointly coming to a speedy opportunity to publicly present the evidence collected in this case. I'm going to defer my comments on the possibility of punishment toward the end, the latter part of my remarks, but I want to focus on a brief description of recent involvements with my office. As you heard, our good sheriff and I were in contact immediately after this, but we were also contacted by the surviving family members, contacted our Victim Assistance Division to facilitate state services and support such as funeral expense reimbursement and community resource and counseling referral opportunities, in conjunction with the California Victims Claims Board, otherwise known as CalVCB. Our condolences certainly are extended to these families during this tragic winter, and we mourn along with them and the entire community. I need to personally commend CalVCB, who've not only been long-standing partners with our office, but immediately after this horrific crime occurred, they reached out to us to offer immediate support. We even had representatives from CalVCB visit our office last week. To Ms. Kaiser, our outreach specialist who visited with us, on behalf of the men and women in the office of the District Attorney, we thank you for carrying the torch alongside us, and commend you and your organization for the service that you provide to victims and their families in the most darkest and difficult of times. This morning, our victim advocates had the distinct honor of informing the families of the developments of this morning. And as you know, the day an arrest is made in a murder investigation, it will mark the beginning of a path to justice for grieving families. The arrest does not, however, bring a close. This is not closure. While these families know who've been charged with the murders of their loved ones and the relief that that may bring, they also know that the fight for justice has just begun, and they will need stamina to weather what comes next. The families advised our staff during these calls of their desire to remain confidential, and under Marcy's law and the California Constitution, we please ask that you honor that request. Conversations this morning not only involved the arrest of today's events and what had occurred, but by tragic necessity, we'll begin a dialogue with them about the process moving forward and inevitably what possible punishment may come. As I said in the beginning, both defendants are charged with special circumstance murders under the laws of the state of California and supported time and time again by the voters of the state that could be the death penalty. My office has a long-standing process and procedure for making this important decision, and we'd ask that you please allow us to follow these procedures as we do in each and every case, for I fear to deviate from those standards in any regard, large or small, could potentially jeopardize the ongoing prosecution and any subsequent decision made. I can share with you, though, that as your district attorney, I've made my views on capital punishment clear time and time again. We reserve this monumental decision for the worst of the worst, and we have a handful of currently pending death-eligible cases. The majority of those cases are murders of infants with the special allegation of torture, and historically, the next most frequent category would be cases involving domestic violence. And I think our sheriff is going to talk a little bit about more on that. I don't want to distract too much from the attention that is justly due the surviving family members represented here today. The story is rightfully about their justice, but please just let me say that anyone can review the work of my office and quickly see our position and upholding the laws of the state of California. During my time as district attorney, we've repeatedly handed down death sentences, and perhaps at some point, other than today, let's begin a dialogue and let's talk about those victims and ask the question, is their case closed? About a year ago, I stood in front of similar cameras, many of you I see from that event, at another press conference, and I remarked that not only was the death penalty in California completely dysfunctional, but I talked about how victims and how survivors deserve to have truth in sentencing. Yet, as recent events have highlighted across our state and nearby, we have nothing even close to it. As I did that day, I'm going to repeat the same question loudly for all of you to hear again. What do we tell families in this situation? Knowing the death penalty is broken in California, families could be told that the punishment may be life without the possibility of parole, even without additional legislative attacks, which I feel are coming. In the past few years, families right here in our county that decades ago watched the murderer of their loved one get sentenced to life without the possibility of parole had to be contacted by my office and informed that their killer was being considered for release. We had to somehow and possibly explain that life without the possibility of parole didn't mean life without that possibility. Not only that, but alongside one of those families, we watched as their loved one's killer was released by this administration. Life without the possibility of parole was a lie to that family. So again, I ask, what do we tell the families in cases like this in the months to come, not only here in Tulare County, but across this state? If the sentence is not life without the possibility of parole, there have been other recent changes in the law that families are going to have to navigate through as well. Whether it's youth offender parole, Senate Bill 81, which was recently passed that reduced sentences, or challenges to the felony murder rule in California, we can anticipate a long and confusing journey for survivors of crime. Where are the victims' voices in these so-called reform changes? Perhaps one may ask when, in today's system, a case is really closed. Because the closer one is to crime, to its victims, the more poignant the ramifications of ideological legislation become. In the trenches and the moments of collective grief shared with these devastated families, it's prosecutors and our law enforcement partners who always have to deliver the cold fact that justice is a complicated proposition in California right now. Let the anguish of these families, let the anguish of this community, our whole community, guide you in your recitation of today's events. And remind the lawmakers in Sacramento and this administration that decisions made in the Capitol have real consequences. They cause impossible conversations with families impacted by horrific crimes like the murder of a 10-month-old baby alongside her mother. Haven't mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters whose loved ones been robbed from them, haven't they endured enough? Haven't victims deserved truth in sentencing, if nothing else? But it doesn't exist, and we need to stop pretending like it does in our system. I pray for the surviving family members that they may have the stamina and the steadfast focus which will be needed in the long process ahead as we transition into the next phase, and that's the prosecution. Let me tell you, this case, again, is not closed. To our sheriff's department, who deserves great admiration and respect, and the law enforcement partners that worked with them alongside many, many hours, as I know, to you we extend our deepest appreciation for your efforts and what you did. Persistence, dedication, and resolve may be looked at as the theme for this day, but let me end with something that I often say. Let us not forget other families out there that have been impacted by crime in our county, in our state, across our country, who haven't yet had the door to justice open for them, that they're patiently waiting. Today, let the theme for you and those families out there in that situation be simply this: please don't give up hope. Please don't give up hope. Your law enforcement partners will work with you. Thank you. God bless. Thank you, Sheriff.
I'll begin to open it up for questions from me, as I imagine that you have many. If I'm unable to answer it, there's many people behind here entrenched in this investigation that will be able to give some light if you have some. I do want to make a comment. Recently, Governor Newsom was interviewed by our media. I applaud the reporter who asked the question. He asked the question of Governor Newsom that I, the sheriff in Tulare County, had asked for the moratorium on the death penalty to be lifted in cases involving small children or infants. Governor Newsom responded with that, I think we should find the perpetrators. I think we need to close that case, period. My message to Governor Newsom: Governor, we've arrested the perpetrators. We've done our part. We're asking that you do your part. We need to look at death sentence justice for those who kill the innocence of the innocent. For anyone who looked at this video and saw that petite teenage mother run to save her 10-month-old infant by placing it over the fence and jumping a fence, as illegal criminals who aren't supposed to have guns, these are not innocent law-abiding people, took the life of a 10-month-old child. I'm asking that the governor revisit. I'm asking that someone here in the media take this video to the governor so he can look at it and ask the question, is this justice for Californians? And with that, I'll conclude. So I will open it up for questions if you have any from me.
Sheriff, can you tell us which suspect shot the baby and the mother?
I do know. Are we able to repeat that? Yeah, I think. You okay with that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Because it's listed on the complaint.
Oh, okay. How much time is it?
So through our investigation, I'm Lieutenant Steve Sanchez with the Sheriff's Office. Through our investigation, we learned that Noah Beard Hamilton was the subject who shot the 16-year-old and the 10-month-old.
I wanted to make sure that the district attorney was comfortable with us releasing that before I answer.
Sheriff, any idea why suspects didn't leave the country?
We do have information. One of the reasons is that we released information to the media on purpose of where we thought our investigation was taking us. I believe that they became comfortable. The information was released intentionally for the purposes of us conducting and continuing ongoing surveillance. Once that we had them under physical surveillance, knowing that they were comfortable staying in the area, we were confident that we were able to keep him here. I do know that there was information. We mentioned cartels, we mentioned gang members up and down the state of California, the potential of them trying to get out of the country. They diverted that when they felt we weren't focusing on them.
And the suspects were arrested at the noise location?
One of the suspects this morning was arrested there. The other subject was arrested in Goshen. That's the primary suspect that engaged in gunfire with ATF agents. That weapon has been recovered. There has been multiple items of evidence that have been recovered, including additional weapons, all of which I don't have now. What we do have, we have listed and provided with the press pack that will go out to you. We actually have investigators at all 3 locations, including information coming in from CDCR, California Department of Corrections. As you can see, gangs operate in our jail system and our state prison system. We also conducted searches at our local county system with our gang members, as well as the gang members operating here locally and up and down the state of California.
Do you have a message for the community? And then you said you were going to have answers for them, and you have them today.
I want the community of Tulare County, the Central Valley, and California to understand law enforcement works for you. We're family. We're human beings. Our hearts are broken in cases like this as well. We're not the enemy. And I want the citizens of Tulare County to sleep a little safer tonight, knowing that these baby-killing murderers are off the street. And that we used every resource possible to make sure that we brought the justice to the families and peace to the community of Tulare County.
And that was a young mother on the 911 call?
No.
Okay, that was a neighbor.
There is a trailer attached to the property. There's a small trailer that is up the driveway. There was 2 females in that trailer with the subject that was shot in the doorway, and I believe he was victim number 1. She hid inside the trailer and called 911, and that's who you heard. She indicated that her boyfriend, if you heard, it's difficult, but we're putting it in the press packet, the actual words that were spoken on the 911. She indicates that my boyfriend's been shot in the stomach, please help, please hurry. But that is not the teenage mother. The teenage mother, once she realizes gunfire is taking place, grabs her small infant and runs out the door, as to which you saw.
Sure. Was there anything of value from the CDCR searches or any confirmed connections to that Metro Familia?
Yes. I know it.
I know you're not
I
going to
just
say
can't
on
tell
that.
you it. But I'm hoping to imply here that with that many searches being done at that many prisons in the state prison system, that it's a clear indicator that there is a hard networking of gang members, violent gang members, working and operating in the state of California, all over the state of California. Yes, sir.
Which direction did the mother run? Is it to the north, the back of the property, or
It's to the southeast.
so towards the front?
She's
sort of?
running towards the street.
Okay.
That cyclone fence that you see,
Okay.
they usually have a rolling gate, I believe, where cars come in and they roll it in behind her. What we believe, as you see, she's not able to jump that high fence with the weight of the baby, but she knows she has to get that baby to safety. She leans up over the fence and lays her child on the ground, as you saw. She can't get over that wooden fence. She goes to the next shortest fence. As she hops over that fence, the baby murderers, the child murderers, slowly walk towards her, advancing, and shoot her in the street.
So the video we saw is from the corner of that house?
Yes. Which has been enhanced through FBI assistance. We didn't even know that we actually had it initially. We initially believed that the system was inoperable. We had to do some work to recover that. And we weren't willing to release that at the time that we had it. One of the reasons for that is because, look, I have to compliment I know you hear this when law enforcement gets up in front of the stage, but let me tell you, bringing a case like this together in less than 30 days, less than 20 days, coming together with everyone that you see in this room, it's unheard of. I almost feel as God had his hand on here protecting these two innocent children. To say that justice has to come. We sat in multiple briefings. I sat in multiple briefings, sometimes many a day, and that information would change sometimes hourly. Sometimes hourly. As you can imagine, when things like this happen, we develop theories and what it may look like. We would have a list of about 20 theories that dwindle down to one. And when you've gotten rid of everything else, you're left with fact. And that's what we're here today. I'm happy that we were able to put these two men behind bars. I can tell you last night, I got no sleep. None. Yeah, that's not true. About an hour and a half. I went to bed at 12:15, and I woke up a little after 2. And so I came in this morning ready for justice to be served. And as I talked to the other men and women in the room, they were the same. They were ready. We were confident in our case, and they all got very little sleep. From our federal agents to everyone who served the search warrant. And I prayed for everybody this morning that they would come home safe. And I am thankful that our ATF agent reacted in the manner in which he was trained to defeat that threat. And that's what he did. I'm also thankful that the murderer survived surgery. Because I'm hoping the death penalty moratorium is lifted. And at some point, both of these men will face death. With that, we'll conclude. We will provide you with a press packet. I will tell you this, the district attorney mentioned it. This case is not closed. Governor Newsom said that they wanted the perpetrators caught. We caught them. He also said we need to close the case. Well, that's not how it works in the legal system. It's not closed. There's a long road ahead. But we do have the perpetrators, and we are confident that these are the two sole responsible parties for the actual slaying and the massacre that occurred on January 16th. So with that, we'll conclude. Again, I cannot give enough thanks to the men and women in law enforcement. Phenomenal work. I'm so proud of the Tulare County Sheriff's Office. I don't have enough complimentary words. The citizens of Tulare County should be proud. Thank you very much.